Hello, and welcome to this Greenlight Agronomy session where we look at a cold snap after corn planting. I'm your technical agronomist, Jordan Arndell. The month of April in Indiana, getting a few warm days and getting everyone itching to get the planter rolling is nothing new. Unfortunately, neither is the month of April in Indiana, getting cold pretty quickly after a few of those warm days and after corn's been planted. A few of the common questions that I get after we experience a cold snap. It got cold the last few nights. Has my corn that I planted been injured? Should I go look at my fields now? And what can I do now? When addressing the question of did the cold hurt my corn that's been planted, the first two questions that come to mind are how cold did it get and what is the growth stage of the corn? First, we can check how cold it's been by looking at our Climate Field View account. Pictured on the slide here, we have a graph showing the high and low temps from April 1st to 14th for a field just south of Lafayette, Indiana. This field was planted on April 6th. In this graph, we see a lot of days that have lows ranging from 35 degrees to the lowest of 27 degrees, and highs ranging between 45 degrees to the warmest days around 80 degrees. 28 degrees is considered lethal to a corn plant whose growing point is above ground and can injure a growing point that is below ground if the temperature remained this low for more than a few hours. If the plant was above ground, we could expect to see signs of frost injury and brown decaying leaves. However, if the growing point is still healthy, the plant should make a rapid and complete recovery with warm days ahead. So we know how cold it got, but what about the growth stage of the corn and where's the growing point? Luckily, this field in particular is still below ground, most likely will not be injured from the short cold spell that we experienced. Luckily for all the fields, at least the ones I've seen, most of the growing points are below ground and I would expect minimal impact to the crop thus far. Whenever I'm asked, should I go look at my fields now, immediately after a cold spell, I'm reminded that firefighters and farmers have at least one thing in common. They both rush to a problem to assess the situation. However, unlike fire, corn that's potentially injured from cold isn't going to show symptoms right away. I would say wait a minimum of 5 days, and depending on how many GDUs are being accumulated after a brief encounter with winter, maybe even 7 days. Now, once we've waited a few days and know that healthy corn should be growing, we need to be evaluating our fields on a field-by-field basis. Whether the plant is below or above ground, within 5 to 7 days of warm weather, healthy plants should show new growth. If we have consistent new growth of plants above ground, we can take plant stand counts to make sure that we have enough uninjured plants that are healthy and growing. If the plants are still below ground, we can dig up a few plants and inspect for new growth. If we find healthy new growth, I suggest waiting until emergence and then going back to assess the population with stand counts. So, what can I do now? Wait for a few days of good weather to make any decisions. This gives the plant time to show us healthy new growth and assess our populations. Look at the upcoming week's weather forecast. This will help with any planning and getting back in the fields. I'd also familiarize myself with common seedling diseases that favor cool, wet growing conditions such as Pythium. Anytime a crop waits extended periods of time to emerge, it's at a higher risk for disease infection. Familiarizing ourselves with these diseases and the symptoms will help us to know what we're looking for. And the last factor that I would consider right now is what herbicides have been applied on fields that are emerged. Certain herbicides can cause symptoms in cool, wet conditions. Take HPPD inhibitors, for instance. HPPD inhibitors are typically metabolized by corn, but in cool, wet growing conditions where growth is slow, we can see the corn become bleached or turn white. And that's all that I have for today's agronomy session. As always, thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found the information helpful and informative. Please feel free to share this information with friends, customers, and anyone that may find it beneficial. Thank you.